For District Council, Councillor Jenny Fradgley. Thank you.
I would like to thank you, members. Can I ask you to remain standing for a moment, please? I would like to introduce Reverend Craig McLennan to lead us in a thought before we start today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. It is wonderful to be with you again this afternoon. I've just been reading a novel the last couple of weeks. Some of you may have read it. It's very popular. It's called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. But what is so interesting about this book, it tells the story of Nora, who is living with regrets, who is living with sorrow, and on the last day of her life, she's transported to the library, where she's given the chance again to try on different lives which she might have lived. It's a fascinating novel. Highly recommend it. Good one before bed. But the interesting thing about this book, as I've read it, it makes me think a little bit about how we view our lives, not just about regrets, but about success. And what is success? Is our success and our goal in life to survive, to be successful, or succession? Some of us, of course, suffer from duck syndrome. We appear calm on the surface, but underneath, we're paddling furiously. And we think, I'm glad people around me don't know how much I don't know. And we keep them at a distance, perhaps hoping that they never find out. But some of us strive for a self-centered form of success that begins and ends with us. Our philosophy might be, I look out for number one. But Jesus said, I've come not to be served, but to serve. And perhaps that's not a bad strapline for any elected councillor or prospective elected councillor, a priest, or dare I say, even a president. But much of yours and my work is vocational. It's not just about what we do, it's our whole lives. It's our DNA. It's not about looking after number one. It's about the real, tangible difference we make to others. The voice that we give to the voiceless. The support we give to the weak and to the vulnerable. To serve those that we are elected to serve and called to serve to the best of our ability. Jackie Robinson was an American professional baseball player who became the first African American to play in a major league baseball match. And he famously said this, and I'll leave you with these words. A life isn't significant except for its impact on the lives of others. And so we pray. Lord, we seek your guidance and your wisdom as we embark on this meeting this afternoon. May our discussions be marked by respect, understanding, and a commitment to the common good of our communities. And grant us the discernment to make decisions that are just, fair, and beneficial for all. And may our actions reflect your values of compassion, integrity, and service. And we ask this in your name. Amen. Enjoy your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I declare this meeting of the Council open. You can now be seated. Welcome to this full Council meeting. There are no planned fire alarms scheduled at this time. Therefore, should the fire alarm go off, please make your way out of the building via the nearest fire exit to the car park beside the Windmill House. Councillors, when addressing the meeting, please stand and ensure your microphone is switched on and that you speak directly into the microphone so that it is picked up via the live audio feed. When you have finished addressing the meeting, please turn off your microphone immediately. Please do not move the microphone from its set position. And when speaking, ensure the microphone is directly in front of you and not to the side or high up. So item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. David, are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've received apologies from councillors Adam, Eden, Henshaw Seraphin and Skinner. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. I invite the monitoring officer to make a statement. Do any members or officers have any further declarations of interest on items on the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the statement that the Chair has asked me to make, it's regarding the pre-election period, which, as councillors, you're all aware of, and it will continue until the election's complete, clearly. So accordingly, I am respectfully asking you on behalf of the Chair that when making representations at today's meeting, you bear the pre-election rules in mind. And in summary, that means that statements of facts and business as usual matters concerning SDC, that's Stratford District Council, are of course acceptable, but political statements made with the intention of furthering or favouring one party over another will not be allowed by the Chair where it's not necessary or appropriate.
Thank you. Are there any further declarations of interest? Councillor Petrovic.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make a declaration on the item 12.1, as I work for the Office of the MP, and in that role I have been liaising with a number of representatives from the private management companies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Chair. Just one further representation, and that's regarding item 6 on the agenda, which is the item relating to IRP. Which all councillors are seized of in their papers. A general dispensation is granted because of the nature of what is included in that report would, in effect, have an impact in some way, shape or form on all councillors in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. Councillor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair. Can I have a point of clarification, please? At some point during this meeting, I have no doubt that the reorganisation of councils will be mentioned by councillors because it's part of everything we do now. Can I please request on whether we need a blanket dispensation regarding that, please?
Thank you again, Chair, and thank you again, Councillor. Should that arise, of course.
Thank you. Any further declarations? Thank you. We move on then to item 3. I now seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the meeting on the 24th of February 2005. Thank you, Councillor Alcock. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Grocott. Are we all agreed with that, please? Okay, agreed. And may I have a proposer for the extraordinary meeting held on the 17th of March? Councillor Juned. And thank you, Kate Rolfe, for the seconder. Thank you. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Item 4, announcements. We now move on to the announcements. Chair's announcements, I think, are just rolling through on the screen. I think the highlight of the, well, there are 2 or 3 highlights, but I particularly enjoyed meeting up with Orbit for a second time to plant trees on part of their land in Bishopton. I actually did accompany them some time ago in Southam when they did a similar exercise there. They're actually, I think, doing a very, very good job there, and I was very pleased to attend that. I can't really see from here. This is awful. Oh, the gang show. That was fantastic. I think a number of people here have been to the gang show over the years. It's just heartwarming and fantastic. And Edward II was as gory as usual. We've been to Ulster quite a few times. Very delightful civic dinner. And the Shipston Civic Service And this week we went to the Southam Civic Dinner, which was also a delightful event. So, sorry, I didn't know I'd done so much. You now look at the Choral Society. That is always a delight. Actually, we go to it apart from being invited as a representative of this council. And the civic dinner I've mentioned. And the vice chair has been very supportive in going to the Leamington Spa civic dinner. And the money raised for Chair's Charities so far is £1,775 to the Citizen Advice, Air Ambulance and Parkinson's. Thank you. I now invite the leader, Councillor Susan. This comes first. Are we doing this now? Yeah. Sorry, the next one on my list is Chair's announcements. Is John Gordon. Is John Gordon here? Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you, John. 25 years long service. A splendid record of service, not just to this council, but to the residents of this area. If you'd like to come forward. I now invite the leader, Councillor Susan Junid, to make any announcements.
I've got no announcements to make at this time. Thank you.
I now invite Chief Executive David Buckland to make any announcements.
Sorry, I've got a bad back, Councillor Mills. Just one announcement from me today, thank you. And I just wanted to bring members' attention to the small outside area at the rear of reception. We call it the light well, which I'm not sure if you're aware has undergone a massive transformation recently. A huge thank you to Pippa Lee and Ryan O'Keefe, who you'll see on the slides here, who've led a small team on doing a makeover, I think they call it nowadays, along with supports from our grounds maintenance contractors, Continental, and our local Unison branch. They've absolutely transformed that area. It's now provided a fantastic outside space for both staff and councillors to enjoy when they're at Elizabeth House. But I just want to pay special tribute to Pippa and to Ryan. Thank you.
Item 5, public participation. There have been no questions presented by the public. So we move on to item 6, independent remuneration panel. I invite the Monitoring Office to advise on the rules of debate.
Thank you, Chair. The normal rules of debate apply. Proposer, seconder and debate.
I call upon a proposer for this item, item 6. Councillor Gist, please.
Thank you, Chair. Due to the uncertainty around timelines for the English devolution proposals for Warwickshire, the report in all your papers seeks as an interim measure to extend the current appointments to the Council's IRP panel for a further period of 3 years until the 31st of March 2028. And the recommendation is that the extension of current appointments to the IRP be extended for a period of 3 years from 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2028, and that be approved.
May I call on a seconder for this item? Thank you, Councillor Rock. Are there any members who wish to speak on this matter? Thank you, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. The requirements of members of an independent review panel, as far as the relevant legislation is concerned, are twofold. The first is that a member of such a panel must not be a member of the relevant authority, nor be a member of one of its committees or its subcommittees. And second, they mustn't be either disqualified from being or becoming a member of such an authority. The reason they mustn't be a member of the relevant local authority is pretty obvious. They shouldn't have any conflict of interest as between their own interests and those of members of the authority they serve. In common parlance, they need to be independent thinkers, individuals who are not influenced or controlled by others in matters of opinion, conduct, or decision. In other words, to be independent in the exercise of their judgment. The November 2023 report, however, demonstrated how this panel of individuals has failed to meet the test. When considering what change it should recommend concerning the basic allowance, the panel acknowledged the representations it had received concerning the lack of indexation of the basic allowance over recent years and the increase in members' operating expenses. Yet, having accepted the strength of this evidence, the panel concluded that it wouldn't act on it because it had been led to believe that the council would not support it. They argued, what's the point putting forward a recommendation that they had been told the council would not accept? The panel decided to make a recommendation, not on the basis of evidence which it accepted, but on the basis of what an unspecified number of the minority of the council's members who presented evidence had told them. Rather than go where the evidence led them, the panel decided to make a recommendation on the basis of the opinions of a few. When push came to shove, they bent in the wind. The responsibility of the panel is to make recommendations based on the evidence. They should do so without fear or favour. It's for the panel to recommend. It's for the council as a whole to decide. This panel has failed the critical test of its independence. Its report in 2023 demonstrated its lack of understanding of the essence of its role and its responsibility. As the panel failed the test on this occasion, how are we to avoid the risk of a repetition? The answer is not to reappoint the current panel. This is a matter of principle for this council, and it's a test of members' standards and judgment. This panel does not deserve to be reappointed, Chairman, and this recommendation should therefore be rejected. Thank you, Chairman.
Do I have any further speakers? May I ask the seconder, Councillor Rock, to speak?
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Harvey and I had a rational discussion about this very point after the recommendations of the panel and before we took the vote on it. I actually have a very high regard for Councillor Harvey and the rational points that he makes on many, many points, not least planning, actually, but where we often have disagreements and often agreements. This is one where I think we have a disagreement. My history is not strong, but I think it's Elizabeth first said, it is not my job to look into the hearts of men. And I'm sure Councillor Harvey has forensically looked into the report of the independent panel from which he draws his comments. But I do think he is rather straying into looking into the hearts of men and ladies on the independent remuneration panel where they have drawn that conclusion. I was one of the ones they interviewed. I didn't suggest to them that what the feeling was as to what the public perception was and all that sort of thing. So that wasn't a conversation I had. There were confidential discussions. I would like to think the independent remuneration panel is independent. I wouldn't like to make a judgment or otherwise. I'm not sure what the alternatives would be. I was suggesting we appoint another panel. I'm not quite sure what the alternative. Well, he's nodding. Yes, presumably that is, and I don't know how we would set about that. Given what appears to be the short length of the council and how many times we're going to go through this process, I'm not quite clear what could be achieved in changing it. But I do fully respect the views he's put forward. This is the place to do it. I think we have a different opinion. I think we should vote for the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have a proposer and a seconder. Please may we go to the vote. Will you raise your hand if you support this recommendation? Will you please raise your hand if you oppose this recommendation? Okay. Please, will you raise, thank you. Will you raise your hand if you are abstaining? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda, minute 556 from the Cabinet meeting held on the 10th of March regarding the local development scheme. I invite Councillor Coucher, Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Planning and Economic Development, to introduce this item.
Thank you very much, Chair. This council is working very closely with Warwick District Council on preparing the South Warwickshire local plan, which it is very, very important that we have an approved local plan going forward, and that we are doing it in a robust manner that will stand up to scrutiny at a public inquiry, probably in late 26 or 27. So what we are asked today to do is to approve the scheme that we have at the moment, which keeps us very much on track in time-wise to make sure that we have that very, very important plan coming forward. Clearly, we have a lot of detailed work that we've got to do throughout this year, particularly involving the many representations we've had about the local plan, and we thank everybody who took the time and the trouble to write in, making their views known, and I know that those are being considered at this particular point in time. The preparation of the local plan has to be approved by this council in terms of our development plan scheme, and therefore I recommend you have two recommendations on your papers, and I would propose that we support those. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for this recommendation? Thank you. Councillor Junid, thank you. Anybody wish to speak on this item? No? I call on the seconder then.
No, I'm happy that this should move forward. The crucial thing is to make sure that when we get to the independent examination stage, we've done things in a way that cannot be questioned and cannot, therefore the council and the finances of the council are not put at risk. Thank you very much.
I have a proposer and a seconder. Will you please raise your hand if you approve of this recommendation? Will you raise your hand if you're against this recommendation? Okay. Will you raise your hand if you're abstaining from this recommendation? Thank you, that's carried. We move to item 8, minute 592 from the Audit and Standards Committee meeting on the 24th of March 2025 regarding independent persons. I invite Councillor Alcock, Chair of Audit and Standards Committee, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. This was raised at the Audit and Standards Committee on the 24th of March. It is recommended to Council, 1, that the extension of the current appointments of the independent persons be extended to the 31st of March 2028 be approved, and 2, that the remuneration for the independent persons, as set out in the agenda report, be approved from the 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 28. Can I propose this recommendation for council, please, Chair?
Thank you. May I call for a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Padgham. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Councillor Ostrander. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Okay. May I call on the seconder to speak then, please? Thank you. Have a proposer and a seconder. May I ask you to raise your hand if you approve of this recommendation? Thank you. Will you raise your hand if you disapprove of this recommendation? Will you raise your hand if you are abstaining? Thank you. The vote is carried. Item 9 on the agenda, councillor questions. There was one question from Councillor Harvey. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Harvey?
I do, Chairman. Thank you very much. Can I thank whoever provided the answer, the leader, I presume, for her answer and for putting right my ignorance on various dates and matters. There are a number of questions I could ask. I will limit myself to the one supplementary. In paragraph 4, there's reference to 72.1 tonnes of CO2 as a reduction between 2019 and 2022. I wonder, and I don't expect these figures to be available here and now, but it would be very interesting to find out what those numbers were, i.e. what was the level in 2019, what is the level in 2022, so that we can put 72.1 into its proper context. And secondly, could the figure that is relevant to 2050, i.e. what's the target level of CO2 emissions in absolute terms, if that could be established as well, I'd find that information very helpful in ensuring that we can track how we're doing against those target numbers. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, I'm happy to find out if that information is available. But as has indicated here, a lot of the data is sometimes at least 1 year, sometimes 2 years out of date before it actually comes through to local government. That is, the national data that is provided. If we have any local data, we can probably get that faster. But a lot of it is tied to national data. One of the things that I'd like to also draw attention to, though, is the amazing work that is being done by some of the people that are working at the District Council, which will feed into those figures. So, for example, the recent work that was done on providing solar panels on the leisure centres will have a feed-in to the amount of CO2 emissions that we are saving in this council. And once the feed-ins and once the readings from those solar panels are fed into the data, we'll be able to update you even more. One of the things that I also want to draw to your attention, I know that you're asking for particular data, is that a lot of this is tied to national data, not only national data, but also national action. We are working, and I am working with the Local Government Association, because we do need to know from government of any flavour about the policy, the framework of policy, regulatory and investment certainty on which we are being able to roll forward our plans and on which we will be basing our data.
Thank you. There are no more questions. We now move on to item 10, questions to the leader. Note that up to 30 minutes will be allowed for questions, with each councillor permitted to speak for no more than three minutes and may ask no more than 2 questions. Due to the time constraint, please keep your questions concise. Please note, for the duration of this item, I will be taking the order of questions sequentially by political balance. Does anyone have any questions for the leader? Oh, right. Can you give us a moment to record? They won't be in the order in which you put your hands up, but please keep your hands raised.
Yeah, keep them up.
Councillor Crump, Councillor Parry. What I propose to do at the moment is take 2 Conservative, 1 other, until we've run out, and then it'll be Conservatives, I think. And we have used, thank you, definitely. And we have, Councillor Warren. Yeah. I think we've got everybody. If we get to the end of this within 30 minutes, you can shout if we haven't actually got everybody in. Thank you very much. So if we... Right, Malcolm Harvey, isn't it? Okay. Councillor Harvey, may I start? No, not. No. Councillor Littlewood, I'm sorry, my brain's not in gear today. Do forgive me. Councillor Littlewood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At least I don't have to remember your name. So, under the exercise of local government reform, this District Council will submit a proposal for separate North and South Warwickshire authorities, which will both take on the responsibilities of the existing county council and district and borough councils. The county council's current responsibilities are for education, SEND, adult social care, public health, libraries, waste management, highways and transport, strategic planning and trading standards. And it should be noted that both SEND and adult social care account for 68 pence in the pound of every council tax pound. These responsibilities will be assumed by the proposed unitary authorities. In order to deliver those responsibilities, the 2 authorities will need to recruit duplicate management administration staff across 2 administrations, where currently there is only 1, and at the same time maintain the staff necessary to deliver the existing district and borough council services. So, Leader, how can this proposal be in any way a cost-saving exercise? Thank you.
Can I actually agree with you that the whole idea of local government reorganisation is not one that makes savings. I have actually done a considerable amount of homework right the way across the country. I'm actually would have been in favour of keeping a district council, but since we have to do something, then we have to look at a review, and a north and a south is one of the preferred options. But I have done a lot of homework. There is, according to the academics that have done a considerable amount of study in this area, and there's several of them that have that I rate as being independent academics. They have all come to the conclusion that local government reorganisation, whether past, and that's been done over the last 10 years, or present or future, has ever saved money. I spoke to Cumbria that have reorganised into, and I've spoken to the leaders of Somerset, who are both going through that process, or have gone through that process in the last 18 months. And they have given me some of their figures, some of the costs, whether you stay as Somerset did as one unitary, or whether you do the same as Cumbria did, which is go for 2 separate unitaries, an east and a west. Both of them ended up costing quite a considerable amount of money. So it's not one that I favour. I don't think it's... I believe in keeping local as local. And as the District Council has actually done a very good job in keeping local government and local democracy and local services as being relevant to local people. It's not something, but we have to do it. So we will have to do it in the best way. And that is not only about making sure that we do not spend the kind of money that's ridiculous sums of money that have been spent by some councils, but that we also do things in a way that provides and continues to provide cost-efficient, effective services to our residents.
Thank you. Is there a follow-up question, please? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I'm delighted that you agree with me. Probably a first, but there we go. But the point is here, really, that we're putting this proposal forward. The Borough Council and District Councils, generally in Warwickshire, are putting the same proposal forward, as I understand, and to have the two authorities. And
Sorry, point of order,
I think
Chair.
I'm writing what I'm saying, but if anybody wants to...
Sorry, point of order, please.
Point of order.
I'm sorry, but it's incorrect. I'm sorry. There has not been a decision on what this council is doing. Report is still going through. So the questions on that a decision has been made needs to be withdrawn.
May I ask the Chief Executive?
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, at the council meeting that was held, oh crikey, feels like forever ago, in mid-March, the council decided to support both options at this stage ahead of a decision about the favoured option for local government review. So the interim plan that was submitted by the council on the 21st of March contained the 2 unitary option and the single unitary option for Warwickshire.
I stand corrected, and thank you for clarification. I still am going to make the point and ask if the leader will agree with me that it makes more sense, if we're having to go through this process, it makes much more sense to save money, to maintain the connections locally with the existing arrangements and staffing and facilities that we've got, to go to a single unitary authority for Warwickshire.
This is a decision and a debate for the future, because once we hear back from government what their decision is and what the direction that we will have from government, then there will be working parties. One of the things that we have to do is bring together a complete a proposal for November based upon what the government and civil servants are saying that we should do, but also based on exactly those initiatives, those that exactly what the services are, what the costs are, what will be best for our residents. That is part of a debate that you will be part of as part of the working group after we've heard back from government at the end of this month, beginning of May. And you will be part of that proposal.
Thank you very much. Please may I actually ask you to be extremely quick. This period given for questions finishes at 3 o'clock, I'm told, and I have 15 people on the list to actually ask questions. So it looks very unlikely we're actually going to get through everybody. So can we be really, really speedy? Thank you very much. May I call on Councillor Bromwich to put his question?
Thank you very much. Councillors, Leader, as you may be aware, I contacted the Chief Executive about a BBC report into the recycled HVO fuel, which questioned the certification. I'm very grateful for the fact the Chief Executive and Deputy Chief Executive speedily got onto this. And unfortunately, I know today I've given a response and you haven't had a chance to respond to that, so I'm not going to question anything you're going to deliver at the moment. But Leader, last year it was raised that there was question marks over the certification, yet we still went ahead. The whistleblower has said in there that it's likely we are recycling more vegetable oil than what's actually produced for recycling. So the question is, Leader, is it wise at the moment, until we establish the validity of the certification schemes in operation, that we continue using such a fuel?
The person in charge at BIFA was contacted. they have given us assurance that their renewable fuel declarations provide full traceability and assurance. And these declarations identify the type and volumes of renewable fuel purchase, the GSG, that's the greenhouse gas emission intensity and savings, as well as detailed information on raw material feedstocks and certification under the appropriate voluntary sustainability schemes. Additionally, they are a participant in the Renewable Fuels Assurance Scheme, which further supports transparency and best practice across the supply chain. The people that are procuring it are continuing to monitor the supply chain as a matter of prudence, but they are confident that the supplies are sourced correctly. Further to that, the District Council officers are in regular contact with the our contractors, BIFA, and also are discussing with them what we also asked for, which was that there should be a short-term scheme, and that there should be a transition measures put in place to make sure that we move, whenever appropriate, whenever viable and feasible, towards other sources of either fuel or electric provision vehicles. That is something that is regularly taken up by the officers on a regular basis every time they meet, not only between individual officers, but also at the most senior level when the head of our department here meets with senior officers at BIFA. And that is regularly discussed when and how we will move on. May I also draw to your attention that diesel is not certified as to where the origins are or the conditions under which diesel comes into this country either.
Thank you. You have a second question. Can I just speed people up a little bit so we can get more questions in? Thank you.
Leader, in the response given by that was circulated around last week, you are correct in what Biff has said. What has not been revealed to Council yet, which I know at the moment the Chief Executive is privy to, is that the suppliers are part of the certified scheme that was raised by the BBC as an issue that they were providing dodgy data. This is very serious. This has now gone to central government. So it doesn't matter how much we say this certification scheme is great, we've had a whistleblower saying, quite frankly, they've been deceiving people. What is even worse is that the Climate Change Committee panel last year, that issue was raised and there was vague answers from the suppliers. Can you guarantee now, for the public record, with 100% certainty, that all recycled HVO fuel used by Stratford District Council is actually genuinely from the sources as claimed? Yes or no? That's all I'm asking for.
That is the assurance that is given to us by contractors. We do not dispute what they've said, but we are raising it to make sure that at every single stage we are making sure that they are asking those questions of their suppliers.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Crump?
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly. Car parking income. In budget papers, an expected shortfall of £190,000 against the budget. Fiscal year from 23-24 to 24-25 indicates car parking income down several £100,000. This seems to indicate that visitor numbers are falling significantly over the years. They may be coming by other methods, but the vast majority do come by car. And assuming that 1.5 people come in the car, I don't know how to explain that, but that was the figures I was been working on. We are looking at between 100 and 300,000 less visitors per annum. Could the leader tell us what the council is doing to try and increase visitor number? And I've got a slight supplementary as well. Thank you.
We work with our tourist organisation to make sure that that Stratford is marketed around the country. But this is a national issue about the number of tourists that are coming. or rather a reduction in tourists, but it is something that we are aware of, and it's something that we have to do something about to make sure that we are marketing the town, and we are working very closely with our partners on this. But we are not the tourist information tourist organising ourselves, but we work very closely with the partnerships that we have.
Thank you. Your secondary.
Very briefly, yeah, I note the parking fees and charges income is not likely to be increased until June. Now, was that a deliberate decision to encourage people to come? Was it an omission? Because that means we'd only, in the 25-26 financial period, we'd only be getting 9 months benefit of that increase. Thank you.
I believe that this is just part of the normal cycle that on which we've always done things. But yeah, okay.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Petrovic?
Thank you, Chair. Leader, following the success of the rounds 1 and 2 of the Climate Change Fund, which we know supports a lot of great local climate change projects, a lot of residents have been asking me what are the plans for further funding being made available. So could you please provide an update on the plans for round 3 of the fund, and also how the council intends to build on the interest and lessons learned from the previous 2 rounds? Thank you.
Yes, the previous 2 rounds have produced some really excellent projects and some really good working with communities. So the Cabinet has now approved the next round. Obviously, during an election period, that we won't go forward with announcing that, but as soon as that is over, we'll be announcing it. We do hope that we will get a further round of really good projects, because one of the things that I believe very, very firmly in is that if you kind of get communities involved, showing and working with us and showing the benefits of addressing climate change, then that is a really good way to move forward. So it will be fully announced when we make sure that all our parish councils, all our community organisations will be told when this begins.
Thank you. May I ask Councillor Pemberton?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. After the election in 2023, this administration moved to engage and embed the military covenant, a move that was supported across this chamber. So having made the decision to provide support to veterans and armed service personnel 2 years ago, I'm keen to understand the impact of the implementation of this policy. Please can the leader advise how many veterans and ex-service personnel have been interviewed for positions and subsequently employed by this council? Thank you.
That is data that I can get to you, but I cannot produce right here and now. But I will ask the HR department to be able to provide that to you.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Organ?
Sorry.
Do you have a second question?
Just to confirm, no supplementary, but it would be useful if the leader could circulate to all members the answer.
Thank you, Councillor.
I will do that. I'll make sure that everybody has that.
Councillor Organ.
Thank you, Chairman. Leader, in other local authorities, a suitably qualified and experienced independent chair is appointed to aid openness and transparency on various committees, such as Audit and Standards Committee. The benefits of this are that they can put more pressure on the external auditors than maybe a councillor chair can. As can be seen at the Conservative-run County Council, who was able to bring pressure to bear to get the accounts signed off and the backlog cleared. This resulted in an unqualified audit report, whilst here at SDC, the auditors have declined to give an opinion rather than a qualified report. Whilst various councillors over the years have been chair of the Audit and Standards Committee, it can feel like the administration at any one time is marking their own homework, leading to questions over the effectiveness, openness and transparency of the committee. Whilst this will require a change to the Constitution, would the leader give some consideration to appointing via a cross-party selection panel an experienced and qualified independent chair of the Audit and Standards Committee who will be able to assist members and officers in a professional and non-partisan environment? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
We made the decision when we took control to make sure that we had a opposition chair of the Ovion Scrutiny Committee. That is something that was the first time that's ever been done in 22 years of this council that I know of. That was within the rules of the Constitution to be able to do that. If you want anything differently done with any of them, then you'll have to put forward proposals at the annual meeting for anything different.
Further question, Councillor?
No, just for point of clarification, I was talking about audit and standards, not overview and scrutiny.
That is a matter for the annual council.
May I call on Councillor Padgham? No, didn't put, sorry. Apologies, so many people put hands up. Councillor Keighley, I think. Confusion
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's easy to confuse me with Councillor Padgham, I know. Just the other day, my council tax leaflet came through the post. It's not something I normally look forward to receiving because it normally tells me I owe some more money. But this time I was very pleased to see on the back cover the advertisement for the health screening initiative. And on Wednesday, it'll be a year since I had my prostate cut out because it was cancerous. I'm still here. The other day, I met with members of the South Warwickshire Prostate Support Group, and they're volunteers, and they come along to these sessions to provide support to people that are worried about results they might find from the tests. And our tests aren't just about PSA. As it happened, my operation came about by chance as a result of a PSA test. I didn't have really any symptoms. They asked me what else were we doing to promote these fantastic events. We said we're going to run there's about 5 on here. Altogether, I think Council have very generously supported with sufficient funds in the budget, probably to test up to 5,000 residents, which is, I think, very significant.
Excuse me, Councillor, very little time. Can you actually get to the question, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, what else are we doing to promote these events, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I actually was invited as a result, direct result of somebody seeing this on the back of the council tax leaflet to an event, a prostate cancer fundraising event in Ulster, where somebody who was themselves also in recovery from after having prostate cancer, they were very, very pleased at what we'd done, but they also asked, could we publicise it more? Could I ask that, as a direct question from myself, that maybe in the app and in the online newsletter, we also make sure that we publicise all the dates that are available, that are given on the back of that council tax leaflet, to make sure that it's as widely publicised as possible.
Thank you. No more questions. May I call on Councillor Parry?
Can I just raise a slight point of order on that? Because that's been noted in the minutes as well. The actual times, sorry, Chair, I do apologise. I was trying to think and stand up at the same time is quite difficult for a man of my age. Perhaps I do need to go for that testing, Councillor Keithy. Yeah, could the dates be actually published in the minutes of this meeting, please? Yeah, and apologies for butting in. I hope it hasn't shorted anybody else's questions. Thank you.
No problem, but we're down to 5 minutes, as I can see on there, so I'm anxious that Councillor Parry has her say.
Thank you, Chair. Almost 2 years ago, on 24th April 2023, the Conservative group put forward a motion on the impact of solar farm development in the district, which raised the concerns that some villages and valued landscapes could be disproportionately affected by the cumulative impact of a concentration of solar farms and consequent loss of valuable agricultural land in one part of the district. Earlier this month, a second industrial-scale solar farm was granted planning permission in my ward. This takes the number of solar farms permission to 5 in a radius of 8 kilometres. My residents foresaw this possibility as other parts of the district are unsuitable for solar farm development for many reasons, including greenbelt constraints. My residents therefore want to know why this administration has done absolutely zero to progress any element of this motion in the last 2 years. May I remind the Leader of the minutes from that meeting which confirm that this Council resolves to ask officers to fully consider the cumulative impact of solar farm development during the planning process and urgently to progress work on policies relating to solar energy generation. It was reported to Cabinet in May 2023. In light of this, what will the Leader actually commit to doing about this matter? Thank you.
This is a matter that is of national importance. It is part of the National Planning Policy Framework and other planning documents. It will be part of and is part of the South Warwickshire Local Plan to have a look at. I actually went to a presentation last week from a group from Claverdon who actually had a different point of view. They were doing a community benefit solar farm and were actually asking the opposite question, which was, why weren't we doing more to encourage and support community benefit solar farms? So I get different points of view from different things. We also have to make sure that we have renewables, but I take your point that it does have to be on suitable ground. But that is something that will be taken into account and is being taken into account through the South Warwickshire Local Plan.
Thank you. Further question?
I'd just like a supplementary on that. So, Leader, are you saying it takes more than 24 months to actually look at a motion that has been agreed at Council, taken to Cabinet and do absolutely nothing upon it? It does concern my residents hugely. I would just like some reassurance that this administration does at least look at motions that come through this full Council and go to Cabinet and does not sit back on their laurels for nearly 2 years and do nothing. Thank you, Leader.
Can I remind you that when it comes to a planning committee, they are independent when they take their decisions. They have to take their decisions based on national planning policy and legislation. They cannot formulate whether or not they like something or dislike something. They have to do it on proper planning grounds. Every single decision is taken on proper legislative grounds and independently taken as a decision. If you would like to be able to overrule the fact the independence and the bias-free decision-making of a planning committee, then please do say so. And I think we will find that we will be taken to court and have appeals against us as soon as possible, which would be very, very costly to this council.
Thank you. May I, as the very last one, I believe, there's only about 30 seconds left, may I just call on Sarah Wally-Hoggins, please? Councillor Wally-Hoggins, sorry.
Yes, thank you. It is a short one. Since we last met as a council, Martin's Law has now received royal assent. I'm sure that this council would like to pay tribute to Figan Murray, mother of Martin Heck, who was killed in the Manchester Arena attack. Her campaigning has been crucial in driving this act forward. I therefore wonder how this council is going to support those businesses and organisations in the district that will be affected by the requirements of this law in ever-challenging financial circumstances. Thank you.
Our community safety team will be looking at all the implications of laws such as Martin's Law and making sure that all that is taken into consideration. We have to be able to protect people, and we are making sure that those kind of considerations are taken into account. But can I also remind you that we do work in partnership. We do not work alone as a district council. We work in partnership with county council, with police, a whole range of other bodies. And these kind of laws also make sure that we have to work with those to protect our residents.
Supplementary question is, how is this council going to support local businesses? Because there are financial implications for them with the introduction of this law. Thank you.
The actual Martin's Law, officially the Terrorism Protection of Premises Act 2025, mandates that certain premises and events take steps to improve their preparedness for and protection from potential terrorist attacks. One of the items that was in our budget was to make sure that we had bought our own set of barriers to make sure that every time we hold an event, that people can hire that set of protection barriers to make sure that their event is held as safely as possible. These are matters on which we work closely with all organisations, the police, our community services, community safety team, and the County Council on all these bodies to make sure that these are taken into account. I know that I sit on, as part of the Ulster Town Council, an organisation that is run by them, which makes sure that when we have an event in Ulster, we always take into account all the implications of Martin's Law.
Thank you. I'm terribly sorry to say that we've actually reached our cut-off time. We managed, I think, to get 9 questions through. Thank you, councillors, for your brevity and precision of your questions so that we could actually get them through. So we will now go on to, many apologies to those people who put up their hands and haven't been able to get there. Item 11 on the agenda, notice of motion update. We have 2 motions on notice. Private management companies operating public open spaces, flood alleviation schemes and estate roads. In accordance with council procedure rules, once proposed and seconded, the motion will be referred to the Cabinet for consideration and report without debate. I invite Councillor Pemberton to propose the motion.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have pleasure in proposing the motion and look forward to the second following on very shortly after. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Juned to second the motion.
I'm happy to second the motion.
Thank you. This will now go to Cabinet. The second motion, providing clarity about future ownership of public open space, roads and other amenities provided as a result of the recent developments. This motion, once proposed and seconded, will be debated. I invite our monitoring officer to advise on the rules of debate.
Thank you, Chair. We revert back to the normal rules of debate as before.
I invite Councillor Coucher to propose the motion.
Thank you, Chair. When this council commenced its operations in 2023, there were a whole series of planning matters that were left unresolved and that this administration had to deal with. And obviously solar farms is one of them, which I have been working on for 2 years. But today we're talking very much about the management of public open space and other amenities associated with new build development within the district. The custom and practice of this authority traditionally had been, when we actually created a new housing area or a new housing estate, that all of the common areas and sometimes even the roads and the drainage facilities and other facilities were all put into the remit of a management company for that particular area. Now, this council has already approved a new SBD in relation to this planning matter to ensure that we do not go into this situation in the future, because the operation of these management companies is highly variable, and we have got a whole series of problems within the region here in that they are uncontrolled, that they can raise charges without any really recourse to public comment. I know in some instances that there are management committees of local residents but they do not have powers over how the companies actually operate. And we have particular problems, I think, particularly with regard to roads and particularly regarding to drainage facilities, some of which have been left very unclear as to whose responsibility those are going to be, whether it will be the management company, whether it will be the original developer, or indeed whether it will be some form of public authority that was going to take them over. I think the previous government were quite clear that they were going to empower county councils to take on a lot of these responsibilities, but I have to say the current government have been particularly silent on that matter, and I think it remains really very, at the moment, wide open as to what is going to happen for the future. So I think we, as a council, have dealt with future developments going forward, but what is our major problem is the existing arrangements that we have. Clearly, we have no powers to unpick those agreements that have been put in place to date, and that actually we would require national legislation to be able to do that. So the notice of motion here is quite clear in terms of what we're asking this council to support, which is basically to make representatives to our two MPs for this area, to really put pressure on the government to ensure that we can gain some control or some regulation of public open space areas, particularly drainage facilities, particularly roads which have not been adopted. I've got one in my own ward which serves social housing. It's in very good repair at the moment, but what will happen in 20 years' time when that road begins to deteriorate, I don't think people living in social housing will be able to actually pay for those repairs. So we have some considerable problems here in the making, and what we're very keen to do here is to try and resolve them here and now and bring some relief to people who are having to respond to the demands of management companies, which have not always been, I think, frankly, in residents' interests or in the public interest going forward. So I move the recommendation, which I hope this council will support.
Can I just raise a point of order, please?
Point of order.
My understanding is that it's not actually the council policies that determine whether estates are adopted or going to management company. That's actually down to law. So I think Councillor Couch has actually got that wrong, because I do believe it's not down to us as a council to decide. It's actually down to the developer to decide whether they want to set up a management company or pay money for adoption.
Councillor Coucher, do you want to respond to that?
No, that is incorrect, frankly. That is just frankly incorrect. Basically, this council has a policy now which is approved by this council that we will not be appointing management companies as our first choice. We will be engaging town and parish councils in the first instance. If they are not interested, we will be engaging ourselves as a council. Only in the very last resort and in very special circumstances would we allow a third party to become a private. That is within our powers to do that, and that is what we have passed.
I think we move on here, and this might come out in the debate. May I call upon Councillor Parry to second this motion?
Thank you, Chair. I have a great pleasure in seconding this motion and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Who would like to speak? Do I have any speakers from the floor? Councillor... Oh. Okay. Councillor... Yeah, Councillor Huggins, Councillor Pemberton and Councillor Scorer.
Councillor
Stanley and Passingham and Gray and Petrovic. Grocott and Petrovic.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, and Rolfe.
And Councillor Rolfe.
Yeah. I think I've captured all those names. We'll go through the names we have and then hope if anybody has been left out, we'll draw you in at the end. Okay? Thank you. So, may I ask Councillor Passingham, please.
We welcome this motion. In fact, we welcome both of the motions, and we welcome the fact that they are cross-party motions, and we as Greens support the cross-party working on things like this. I have several private management companies in my wards, which for pretty new estates, some of which have only just been finished, and there are issues with all of them, pretty much, and several of the residents on those estates have highlighted the fact it's very unfair that they pay service charges and the rest of the public can still use those service charges, and they get charged quite a lot of money for this. The legislation or the implementation of the recommendations of this authority that is mentioned in this motion might take some time. So it's good that we're setting up, well, hopefully setting up a task and finish group to look into it. And it will be very interesting to find out what other councils have done in terms of taking over private management companies and for the benefit of the community and under, in effect, more democratic control. So we might be, but hopefully we'll be able to offer to take over some of these private management companies very soon. And as far as we're concerned, the sooner the better.
Thank you. May I now call upon Councillor Pemberton?
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to support this motion. I think it's complementary to the motion that will be referred to Cabinet, where, quite rightly, we need to look to legislators at a national level. I thought one of them's gone. It's always the way. And we should be lobbying Parliament for changes to the law, but we should be looking to do whatever we can and develop a toolkit, and that's what the other motion looks to do. And I would say that I'm probably more a half-full person than perhaps Councillor Coucher has appeared to be. I would have name-checked our MP. She and I are meeting with a developer and a private management company on the 12th of May, and you'll know about that. And there is some engagement. So there are opportunities potentially to engage conversations. And I know that Councillor Coucher has got a particularly egregious example in his ward and in Councillor Parry's ward of POS being sold off. And if there was a proposal brought forward to use compulsory purchase powers to secure that land, he would find no opposition from this side of the chamber in bringing such a strategy forward, because it's intolerable that POS should be sold to private people to turn into their own gardens or whatever it may be. So we're all on the same page about this. So happy to support the motion, and would sign off with also that Councillor Coucher talked about the hangover of supplementary panelling documents, but our officers are very, very busy, and there is a continuum of work done throughout all administrations. So I'm glad that the officers got there. We support the SPD, and I'm happy and delighted to support the motion. And hopefully we can sign off on that and persuade legislators to start to act promptly on the issue. Thank you.
I understand Councillor Bromwich wishes to raise another point of order.
Yeah, point of order. I'm going to raise it again because I have checked this up. Section 38 agreement, developers do not have to offer to the local authority. It's entirely in their gift. The law has not been changed at the moment. It's been debated in Parliament previously, but at the moment, ultimately, the developer could say, no, they want to put it into a management company. So Councillor Coucher, I believe, is still incorrect in what he said.
Can I just say, noted, that needs to be looked at. We don't have the information at the moment. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Petrovic.
Thank you. As all of my colleagues, I'm very pleased to see this motion being brought to the floor today, and it speaks directly to the challenges that so many of my residents are facing. And I think it offers a much needed way forward to start and making sure that we are putting the full weight of this council against legislative change. So I think The CMA's findings mirror what I hear regularly from the residents, that households really face the detriment in the form of charges they pay, the quality of amenities that are available to them, and sometimes the significant efforts required to achieve that satisfactory outcome. I've heard from many of my residents who have been facing thousands and thousands of increase in the management of the open spaces, including the playgrounds, which are frankly not more than a patch of grass and few poles, and they've waited for over 4 years to have the roads adopted. Not to mention that there are still a number of public open spaces which haven't been managed to find the owner of, and they haven't been offered to the public authority for adoption either. So I think that is why the CMA's recommendations are so important, and I strongly support the proposal in this motion. So I'm hoping that it will be adopted unanimously and that we can really ensure that we give to residents what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. May I call on Councillor Scorer? Thank you. I have been given incorrect information. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Councillor Stanley.
Councillor Stanley. Right, Councillor Stanley. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever been referred to as Councillor Scorer, so I just want to say that I'm happy to support this motion also, for which is calling for MPs to change the legislation. I know I'm not the only one here. We've heard already that there are many residents within our wards that do suffer a lot from these maintenance companies. I know I have a few. But yeah, this motion really is complementary to the one that we haven't debated today and supports a more local change, which will have a really positive impact on our district residents. So you've got my support today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Whalley-Hoggins.
I'm sure that everyone in this room will agree that the financial hardship and woefully inadequate service residents have regarding their annual charges for amenities in their housing estates is unacceptable. We've all dealt with, and ongoing in my ward, is sewage running down roads, etc. However, I am forced to ask this question. What took us, or took you, so long? According to the previous notice of motion, which is going to Cabinet without debate, it's clear from paragraph 3 that the previous administration and other councillors were fully cognizant of the issues faced by Stratford residents. And yet, here we are. 3 out of 5 of the issues relate to water companies. And I have to say that Manuela Pertigella has been very engaged with this issue. Particularly in my ward. We've had a benefit of a meeting there, which I think was quite a powerful meeting. I certainly got, as you'd be not surprised to learn, got my 10 penneth in there. However, I bring this Council's attention to the briefing paper from the House of Commons Library dated the 12th of March 2025, and it states the following, that local planning authorities are required to prepare an infrastructure funding statement which identifies the different types of infrastructure, the delivery plans, funding for implementation and responsible agencies. This is important to evidence because it's important to this motion because the deliverability of policy and development proposals, including new housing development proposed in the local plan, should be very much scrutinised. Local planning authorities must seek to engage in discussions with water companies on an ongoing basis to understand their business and investment plans for the local authority area. The current government's planning practice guidance in February 2025 states that local planning authorities should agree a statement of common ground with infrastructure providers. So I ask this council, in part of this, I suppose, is where is the infrastructure funding statement for each of the monstrously sized developments that we have within the South Warwickshire Development Plan? And how are the ongoing discussions with the water companies and their investment plans going, which will tackle 3 of the 5 issues raised within this notice of motion? For clarity, Severn Trent, which councillors across the district deal with on a daily basis, if not weekly basis, was privatised in 1989, and we all know which government was in power then. Today, despite the raw sewage flowing down our roads, Severn Trent had pre-tax profits of £297.8 million last year. It's just a scandal. So with all this in mind, I wonder what the real purpose of this notice on motion is. The fact is that the Cunliffe Review, also known as the Independent Water Commission, is due to report in the second quarter of 2025, so after the Easter recess. It's not a big jump to see that this motion being proposed could be political posturing. But I think perhaps, if I might say, that perhaps we're being just a tiny bit premature with this, because it will be the Cunliffe Review that will change matters for residents. And I remind everybody, or bring people's attention to the 8th objective of this Cunliffe Review, which is to ensure that water companies are operationally as well as financially resilient, and that they can deliver resilient and secure infrastructure within an agreed time frame and maintain it for the long term. This should include anticipating and investing to provide for future changes such as planned developments and climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. May I call on Councillor Grocott?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to put forward another aspect. I welcome this motion as well, and I think we have all had many instances of casework from our residents coming from the charges that have been put forward, and the variable levels of maintenance work, and the exposure to one-off fees for non-scheduled events and for maintenance of the public amenities. However, there's another aspect of the actions of property management companies that has been brought to my attention by residents in my ward that I think needs consideration. This is the issue that the actions of property management companies can actually affect the rights of our residents as citizens in a local democracy. And what I mean is that, that prior to 2014, all the public amenities on an estate would, as a matter of course, be adopted by the local authorities, and open spaces, sewers, etc., would then be under the management of us, the district or the county councils. In this case, this means that if the residents had a complaint about said highways, play areas, etc., residents could contact us as councillors, and we would have, and we would be able to create action. We, as councillors, have a direct mandate to go to our officers or portfolio holders to resolve issues and request action on their behalf. We also have a duty to treat our residents fairly, and we have a code of conduct process that ensures that we act in the best interest of all our residents. Similarly, council officers have their code of conduct that obliges them to provide the best services to our residents as the Stratford District Council's customers. A resident with public amenities that have been adopted by the local authority is a resident with support and assistance, rather than somebody that has to approach a private company for, over their issues. However, when a resident has a complaint about the decisions of an officer employed by a property management company, if they come to me with their complaint, as I have found, I have no statutory power other than to encourage them to get independent legal advice. The property management in question says that it has a residents panel to address these issues, but the membership of this panel is opaque and the processes are not transparent. So in this case, I welcome the proposals in this motion, but I'd like to see in point 5 of the motion that we include consideration of the enhanced consumer protection scheme outlined in section 5 of the CMA House Building Report, which discusses matters such as transparency, accountability and redress when dealing with residents by these companies. Thank you very much.
Is that a formal amendment or just an addition to the motion?
Oh, sorry. Do I do that? Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, I've never done that. Yes, of course. I'll officially. Yes. Oh, I'm learning on the job here. Thank you.
In that case, Councillor, can you actually state exactly what the amendment is that can be written down? Do you want a moment to put... Well, if it's friendly, can't it just be... Oh, yeah. once you've got it. Is it a friendly amendment? Are you willing to accept it as a friendly amendment? If it is, we continue with the debate. Yeah. I could call a 5 minutes quick to the walk.
Yeah.
Councillors, while this is actually being put together, shall we just take a very quick 5-minute break if people would like to take a
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for reconvening Council. At the moment, the situation is that the Chair has asked if there is a written copy of what has now been agreed between parties. So I understand that's yet to be done, but if not, if it could just be read out at this particular time, that would be helpful.
Are you happy that it's read out? Thank you. Councillor Grocott, will you stand and read the copy, please?
Thank you. Yes, so my proposed amendment is that there should be, under section 5, there should be addition of an option F, which is consideration of the enhanced consumer protection scheme outlined in section 5 of the CMA final house building report. Thank you.
May I ask Councillor Perry if that's accepted as a friendly amendment?
Thank you, Chair. Very happy to accept it as a friendly amendment.
Thank you very much. In which case we continue with the debate. I will call on Councillor Bromwich, please.
Yeah. Having had a lot of experience dealing with these management companies, and probably being one of the few successful councillors that actually disposed of a management company for the residents to take over, of course I'm going to support this motion, but I think central government really need to get serious on this issue. Yeah. It has been a bane for many years. I know in my current estate it's been ongoing, and when residents are told that, like, when the estate's completed, you'll get a residents' vote to appoint directors and all this sort of thing, and then they make excuses. As I will tell you now, on my estate, there is an issue with land registry. It's been ongoing for a number of years. They come up with many excuses. The one successful one I had, which actually where Councillor Padgham and Councillor Strander live on, where we actually removed the estate management company. I don't know if you were on the estate at the time. That it was very awkward to drag them to the table. They were dragged screaming and kicking, and they were completely hostile. It's how these companies operate. So anything pressure we can put on national government to try and get this practice banned in any way, shape or form, and all their sharp practice would be very, very welcome. Because councils, we should not have to put up with these rogues, and that's what they are. They're rogues. They're there to fleece people. They are there to keep increasing the money. Let's make no bones now. And this is a good way forward. And I would like to think finally central government would take this forward. And I would like to think other local authorities will do as we're doing, trying to put these sort of motions forward, getting their local MPs to pile the pressure on, and finally get rid of this practice of management companies. Because regardless of whether myself and Councillor disagree on what the legal aspect is at the moment, the simple way is to stop the practice from ever being allowed to start with. These sort of things going to MPs go a long way to help that and show that we take our residents' concerns very seriously and we intend to ask for our best interests. We do not consider party politics part of this. It is solely for the interests of residents, and I wish all MPs across the House of Parliament would also turn around and take this seriously.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rolfe?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points, really. There are one or two councillors in this room, Councillor Organ, Councillor Fragilis, and myself, who are very much aware of a development south of the river that is 26, 27 years old, and there are still 8 roads on that development that have not been adopted. And the reason they've not been adopted is because either there's been multiple developers building around one road, or those developers have disappeared off the face of the earth. And it's been very, very difficult, and it's still causing huge problems. It's causing huge problems for people selling and buying houses. And I think, you know, something has to be done about this. Adoption of roads does take a long, long time. But actually, one of the points I wanted to bring up is it's not just about sewage, it's not just about roads, it's not just about that sort of thing. I don't know how many councillors here are aware of how much these private companies are charging their residents, particularly those in social housing and shared housing, how much they're charging them for buildings insurance. Now, I've seen a set of accounts on one of my developments where a person living in a 2-bedroom house is paying 5 times more in buildings insurance than I'm paying on my 4-bedroom house. And it is not fair. They have questioned it, and there is no comeback. They just simply say, you pay or you go, end of. And it's getting to the point where the insurances are going up, the buildings insurances are going up every year. I mean, I totally understand. We've all got those blocks of flats, blocks of apartments where there is a shared roof, a shared outside space, where that makes sense that you have a shared buildings insurance. But these are individual houses where people are literally paying 5-6 times more than most of us are paying for our individual houses. So that is something else I would like. I don't know whether it can be an amendment because we haven't got time to have another break, but it's certainly something that the working group needs to look at, because I'm sure some of you are nodding, so you are fully aware of what is happening there. So I would like to see that discussed in the Working Party group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coles.
Well, I'm sure you'll all be delighted to know that I've got a page of notes written here that I'm going to spare you. I think there are 2 points that we can take from this thing. One is that if you were embarking on a process like this, you would not want to start from here. Let us acknowledge the fact that this has built up over the years and should never have happened in the first place. And the second is, this has to be an object lesson in not deregulating or removing control or moving oversight or moving compensation and aid from issues that remove protections from our residents. There's a big old thing to clear up. People are being affected in our residents in this district council's area that is now have to go in conjunction with other areas around the country, has got to go to Parliament to be sorted out. This should never have happened in the first place. I'm really happy that we were able to pass something to make sure that going forward there are protections to protect this from happening again, and it is just such a bitter shame that there's so much to be cleared up from going forward that we can't do ourselves, that has to be done by legislation.
Thank you. Councillor Junid.
Thank you. I think we need to clarify about the legislation, because historically amenities such as these that we're discussing today were adopted by either a parish, a district or a county council. However, the legislation at the time was discretionary, and it was in 2005 in the Supplementary Planning Guidance of March 2005 on provision of open space, section 6.2, when it was adopted by this council, that in future there would be no, that they would actually allow developers to make their own arrangements for maintenance, that developers may prefer to transfer ownership and future maintenance to other responsible bodies by agreement. And it was said in the last paragraph, it should be stressed, however, that the District Council is not willing to take on such responsibilities for new facilities. There are other paragraphs within this public open space document that makes it quite clear that it was the decision of this council to make sure that to transfer public open space maintenance to private estate management. And it was only in 2019 when the residents of the pastures of Kinnerton came to this council that was uncovered. They actually asked that question, and it was confirmed by the then cabinet member on the 22nd of October 2019 that indeed was the position of this district council, that this district council had chosen not to undertake the discretionary ability that it had under the law, but had actually taken a positive decision rather, to make sure that private estate management was encouraged and supported and allowed to happen in this district. So what happened since then was that they asked various questions, the residents. They took it even further, and they gave evidence, and many others gave evidence to the Competition and Markets Authority, which reported in 2024. And that Competition and Market Authority is the basis of this notice of motion. Because they found that it was not equitable for residents of a development to pay for ongoing maintenance of community assets that benefit the entire community while paying standard council tax. And they've noted how much this had changed across the country, that more and more of the developers were using these private estate conditions. And they have come up with a very, very good and well thought out number of recommendations. And one of those clear recommendations is that government should look at this further and should make sure that this does not happen again. If it is a genuinely private estate, then that is one thing. But these are common public open space facilities that are being paid for by residents on top of council tax, that are open to all members of the public. And it has become a practice right across the country. And some of these facilities are having a considerable problem with maintenance. We're not only talking about sustainable urban drainage and adopted roads, etc., but we are talking about many, many other maintenance problems that are issued. The residents of Kinnerton, the pastures at Kinnerton, have on the same estate, they have not only 4-bedroom houses, but they also have social housing association providers that have to pay the same rate as everybody else, and that is clearly not the. So what we're asking that the government, this council now has changed its policy, but it is not allowed to retrospectively change the legislation for those estates that were allowed to have private sector management companies running their facilities between 2005 and 2024. We cannot go back and legislate. That has to be done by government.
30 seconds,
this is asking
30 seconds,
clear
Councillor.
message that the Competition and Market Authority's recommendations should be granted in Parliament.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor? Does anybody else wish to speak? Any other speakers? Thank you. May I call on Councillor Parry?
Thank you, Chair. And as I said earlier, it's my great pleasure to second this motion. The protection of public open space has an essential role in sustainable development and lifestyles, which is why back in October 2022, as a member of the Conservative-led administration and on Cabinet, that a formal consultation was proposed and implemented to incorporate amendments to the existing SPD on open space Part L, which were later adopted by the current administration. The amendments reflect government reforms to SIL since the original adoption of this section, and the Council's revised approach that all public open space will now be adopted by either the local town, parish council, or by Stratford-on-Avon District Council. Creating healthy, thriving new communities means providing the spaces, places, and infrastructure that people need to live well and which enable the natural world to thrive. It also means empowering people to have a say on how their homes and neighbourhoods are created and managed, providing opportunities for active citizenship. Public open space provides a wide range of recreational and social functions, as well as providing their nearest opportunity for interacting with the natural environment beyond their own gardens. It is therefore of great concern to learn that residents have been charged and paid for a service charge arrangement to maintain areas of public open space by unscrupulous management companies who have failed to deliver against a management plan and pocketed huge sums from residents. The purpose of this motion will therefore call for an extensive review and investigation of the ownership and maintenance of public open spaces, as well as sustainable urban drainage systems, sewers, drains, and unadopted roads across the district where planning permission was granted before the SPD was adopted. It is therefore essential that the Council allocates sufficient resources to review and investigate these residential developments where the service levels appear to be non-existent or have fallen short of residents' expectations. Developers and management companies must be held to account, and as part of this process, it is my view that we should also include the development, or at least the consideration, of the development of a league table with a rating system which highlights best practice and names and shames those operators who failed to fulfil their service agreement. In addition, I would like this council to ensure that the provision of public open spaces are protected in perpetuity and prevented from being auctioned for sale. Thank you all for your support in the adoption of this motion.
May I call on the Chief Executive to make a...
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Just to be clear, the notice of motion that we're currently discussing hasn't got any resource requirements upon the Council other than the letter that is contained within the second part. There was another motion on notice which does have resource implications. That will be referred to the Cabinet and then we'll come back for a further debate. I'm sorry about the beeps. I don't know what that's about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. May I call on the proposer to wind up the debate? Thank you. Councillor Couch.
I think we had a very good debate. I think actually we've had a few additions to the motion, which I'm sure the working group will look at, because I think it is of great concern to many residents in this district that they not only have bought their property or possibly are renting their property, they pay their council tax and then they get a further bill, and a bill over which they have absolutely no control whatsoever. And as been mentioned, in some instances we do have residents' panels, but their powers are extraordinarily limited and they are advisory only. And at the end of the day, the executive decision is taken by the management company. We've heard of, I think this afternoon, roads in the district, 27 years old, still unadopted, still a problem for residents in those particular areas. And I think many of us have got new roads in our areas, which I jolly well hope won't still be in that situation in another 27 years, because some of them have got block paving, which we know wears out rather faster than tarmac. This is a very important situation for, I think, each and every one of us, and we must put as much pressure as we can on our two MPs to make very strong representations to government about this. Is a most unstable situation and something which has got to be resolved. We must be able to get control over these areas and to try and improve the lives for everybody. So I hope everybody will be able to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have a proposer and a seconder. Will you please raise your hand if you support this motion? As amended. Thank you, that's unanimous. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. Which brings us to item 13, urgent business, which you'll be very pleased to hear there is none. And so the next meeting of the Council is the annual Council meeting, which is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, the 14th of May, 2025. May I remind people that there will be a Council photograph taking place before that Council meeting at 9:30. Thank you. And so this brings this meeting to an end. And may I just say, before I bang the gavel, I've enjoyed being chair for this year. It's gone so incredibly quickly, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the thrills and spills of curating the debate in this council. Thank you, councillors.